correct to say sibilance? Sibilance? Sibilance?
Human Torch.
Honus?
Apply for a home loan.
Hi, this is Shawn. You're listening to the Never Heard of It podcast. And my regular co-host, Craig Moorhead, is off on assignment in an undisclosed location. So today I'm joined once again by Brian Crane.
Hello.
Hi, Brian.
Hey.
Brian is the co-host of A Little Snack, a podcast you should check out because any day now...
It's coming any second.
They may have a new episode.
That's right. Not since January, but, I think July is going to be the month for the next one you just watched.
Which July?
This July.
Okay.
Even this July.
Okay. So there's six days left, I think, in July for that to happen.
I'm cutting it close. But.
Okay. We have another live episode, so it may sound a little different again, but bear with us. We also have two very special guests today. In our wives.
Yes, we have to call them special.
Yes, so...
I mean, they happen to be also, but, we're also required to do that.
So, with that in mind, let me introduce you to my wife, Gretchen.
Hello.
Hi, Gretchen. And...
This is my wife, Peggy.
Hi.
Hi.
Now, is there any truth to the rumor that you two are going to start a podcast of just making fun of your husband's podcast?
We already have one, actually.
Yes.
Okay. You just don't know about it.
Oh my God,
Okay.
it's an underground podcast.
Well, you know that then our daughters will then make a podcast making fun of your podcast.
I'm sure Beatrice is already ready.
So the circle will be complete.
Yes.
Thank you guys for coming. Gretchen, you actually suggested that we do this, and I thought it was a really cool idea because I don't want to paint a picture of you guys that's incorrect, but is it fair to say neither of you would call yourselves movie nerds?
Correct. I grew up in a complete media vacuum.
Okay.
I have seen probably 17 movies in my life, including this one. So I'm only exaggerating a little bit. It's probably more like 50.
Now,
So
I obviously have insider information, but why don't you share with people, just to give a concrete idea of what this means, how old were you when you watched the original Star Wars trilogy?
I was at least 31.
Yeah.
I think I saw it when I was 31, but I might have been as old as 33.
Pretty recent.
Yes,
recent.
that's
Yeah.
within the last 5 or 6 years.
Yes. And so, Brian, how would you describe Peggy's movie life?
I would say that she did not achieve a true awakening until she met me. And now she understands how important movies are. But before that, she lived in some benighted ignorance. But I drew her out of that, and now she knows. I'd say she almost qualifies as a movie nerd in some instances.
And Peggy, how wrong is he in that description?
He's pretty close. I didn't go to the movies a lot as a kid, but I definitely watched, Star Wars before I graduated from high school.
Well, that's good.
I'm definitely not as on my game as I was when I was working at Warner Brothers, where I had to
Sure.
know stuff and know when it was coming out and know the
That's
descriptions
true.
and who's in it.
I got a lot of good information from you back then.
I used to know production companies and that sort of thing, and I'm just like, what's coming out? Oh, that came out? Okay. But
You were there for the Harry Potter films, correct?
I was one of the
See?
first people in my department that was forced to read the books.
Wow.
And I am the personification of the title Never Heard of It. Because 99% of the movies that 100% of the movies they have done on this podcast, I have never heard of until Shawn talks
Which
about them.
is why we thought today would actually be nice to then talk about a movie that a lot of our listeners will recognize and probably have seen, but at the very least, they'll have heard of this or definitely of the filmmakers. And so how we did this was you suggested the idea, Gretchen, and then Brian, Craig, and I talked about what the hell we're going to make them watch. Brian, you came up with a list.
Yeah.
And the movie that we're talking about today is a 1996 movie, Bound, directed by the Wachowski brothers, now the Wachowski sisters. We'll get into that, of course.
Siblings.
There was maybe 4 or 5 on that list. Is
Yeah.
there any particular reason Bound jumped out to you?
Well, as I was trying to come up with this list, because I knew what you're talking about, in that with the ladies, I think we had a better shot potentially at getting a movie that more people than not had actually heard of. They may not have heard of it, but we would get them out of the sub basement of like super never heard of it.
Yes.
And I think the one that flashed into my head was like, oh, Matrix, that'd be cool. I was like, oh, they most of them, they've seen that, you know.
Gretchen,
I took
you've
you
seen
to
The
those
Matrix.
I
trilogies.
did.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah. I mean,
The Matrix is in my list of 17 that
okay,
I've seen.
see, and that's what I figured. That's like, as
Yeah.
fun as that would be, but I'm sure even you guys have heard of that one.
Offended.
I know, you're a little offended. So I thought,
Just getting started.
Well, what's another one that might sort of dovetail with that? And it's like, well, that's their first movie, Bound, which sort of laid the groundwork for the Wachowskis to do The Matrix. So I thought that might be a good one. So a couple other ones on there were like, Chud for cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers. I thought that would be a good one.
Heard of that.
I've
Yeah.
heard the term, but not the movie.
And a couple others, but I think Bound was the one that sort of
Roasted.
Yeah,
Roast
I
that.
definitely thought, oh, that would be a great one because, as cool and smart as me, you, and Craig are, this is a good one to have a female perspective on.
Oh, absolutely.
Particularly because of what's happened to the directors. But anyway, Bound, let me just give a quick synopsis to those who maybe haven't heard of this or seen it. This is from Google. Again, 1996, sparks fly when Violet sets eyes on Corky in an elevator. Violet is the girlfriend of a violent gangster, Caesar, while Corky is fresh out of prison and doing renovations on the apartment next door. As the two women launch into a passionate love affair, they assemble an intricate plan for Violet to escape from Caesar with $2 million of the mob's money. The movie stars Jennifer Tilly in the role of Violet and Gina Gershon in the role of Corky, and Caesar is played by Joe Pantoliano. It also features, help me out here, Brian, that guy.
Chris Maloney.
Yes. What do I know him from?
You know him from
SVU.
Law and Order SVU.
I don't, but
Yeah,
actually he
no.
looks familiar.
He was in a season of True Blood. He was in
Something recently.
something recent where he played a special forces guy. He played a special forces guy.
Law and Order Special Forces?
Yeah, Law and Order
Yeah,
Special
that was
Forces unit. Yeah, he's pretty ubiquitous. So you'll see him in a bunch of stuff, but he's really good. He's a solid guy.
Yeah, and a couple other just solid like characters, but really, character actors. It's not a big cast at all.
No.
It's a very contained movie. But what did you guys think? Did you have any expectation of what you might be watching, even just based on the title, Bound? Or did you know anything about it? Peggy, you had heard a little of this?
And Brian asked me, had I heard of it? And I said, is that the one with the lesbians?
Right.
And that was the extent. But then when I went to watch it, I was like, oh, this is the movie. And I knew the background story about Joel Silver. And it all started unraveling, but I had never seen it.
Well, at least there's that.
Yeah.
You may not have heard.
So
of it,
I
never
knew
seen
the
it.
drama, but then since then, the Wachowski siblings, or at least Lana, has said that that's not true, that Joel Silver wasn't making this a test movie. But I think any movie you make with a $6 million budget and then go on to make Matrix is a test movie.
Yeah, that sounds like to me.
Sure. Yeah, you got to take that step. But did you, beyond, okay, let's define the lesbian movie. Did you think, the movie about lesbians in love?
I didn't
and
know that there
somehow
was crime.
Okay,
I didn't know that there was
no
violence.
mob.
I just knew that there was some love relationship between two
Okay.
lesbians.
Gretchen?
I knew nothing whatsoever. I had no expectations
Okay.
for this movie. Nothing. I didn't know who the Wachowski siblings were.
Wow.
I did not know that they were responsible for the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing at all.
Perfect
So-
test case.
A good clean slate.
Yep.
And let's just start with, we usually try to say kind of overall what we felt kind of 2-second synopsis. I mean, not synopsis, our takeaway of this movie. Like, did you enjoy the experience overall?
I was keen to find out what happened, but I was sort of frustrated by the overriding 90s-ness of the movie, which can't be
Yes.
helped because
No.
it was made in the 90s. And I'm not a Jennifer Tilly fan, and she bothered me throughout.
Sure.
Peggy?
Well, I'm very used to Jennifer Tilly because I watch a lot of Family Guy, so the voice
Yeah, the
didn't
voice,
bother me at all.
Is she one of the...
She's the one who's always pregnant next door.
Okay,
Joe's wife.
gotcha.
I don't even know if
Yeah.
she has a name besides Joe's wife.
Oh, maybe not.
But I'm sure she does. But that didn't bother me. I mean, I was fine. It kept my attention. There were some definite 90s distractions from it, and I wouldn't go so far as to say I would recommend it to somebody else, but for its historical significance in filmmaking, I would recommend it based on that.
Oh, okay.
And Brian, maybe we should say you haven't finished watching this again.
Yeah.
So when's the last time you saw this?
I probably saw this fairly not long after it came out, so it's been a while for me. But I remember bits and parts of it. But also back in the day when I was writing screenplays and such, I subscribed to a certain magazine called Scenario Magazine, which was kind of like the thing to do, and Bound was one of them. So it was sort of like held up as a prime example of excellent screenwriting. So I'd read that a few times, the screenplay in that magazine. So I feel like I had a fairly good grasp of it, and I watched the first 10 minutes of it recently, but I'd have to depend on my memory for the whole of it.
So
By the way,
Bonnie
Bonnie is
the name of Joe's
the
wife
name.
on Family Guy.
okay, got some help from an outside member. Thank you.
All right.
Let's talk a little bit about that opening, because Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon do meet as neighbors, and it's pretty apparent that Tilly is interested in some Gershon.
She is hot for Gershon.
From the word go. It takes a little while to actually get to the plot of this movie. I mean, at least the heist that's going to be involved, the con that's taking place, the money that's being involved. And I think looking at it now in 2016, that does feels a little dated even in that building of that relationship. The newness of the lesbian factor, I think, maybe.
I think they were like, we got to titillate our audience.
Sure.
Let's have a lesbian love scene. Let's get that out of the way. So there's some relationship building, and there's a spark there. There's some awkward close talk and awkward close coffee drinking.
There's a lot of personal space issues.
There are a lot of personal space issues, and then they do it,
They do.
and it's reasonably graphic for
is.
what it is.
You can tell what's going on.
Yeah, you know what's happening, and there's a lot of booby on display.
Yeah.
And then but based on what we are to assume is this one time that they've done it, there is a level of trust and intimacy beyond physical that they have built their relationship from here.
Well, and that was one of my questions. Did you buy that central conceit that these two people, in the newness of this relationship, would then trust each other to do a very, very dangerous thing? I mean, what ultimately becomes a life or death situation. Would you call it love between the two of them? Is that even fair to say? Do you think the film is trying to say these two are in love?
No. I can suspend disbelief for the purpose of the movie, but in the real world,
Right.
no.
And I don't even think that they're trying to say love. I just think that I think that there's like a sympathy for each other there. Like, I think Tilly, having been living kind of this mafia life for a while, realizes the pain that Gershon is going through, having just come out of jail for 5 years. And then I feel like once it's revealed that Tilly is a prostitute, and everyone, they kind of have a few deep conversations. I don't know if it's enough to have love, but I feel like there's a bond there.
Yeah, I can see a bond, not necessarily love.
Okay. And I was interested in, did they do enough to make you, like, care about these people, or were you actively rooting for any one person?
I'm all for Gina Gershon.
Yeah?
Corky, yes. My dislike of Tilly runs to her characters. So
Because it is Tilly's story. She is the protagonist
Yes,
who's got the most to lose, who's trying to change her life.
She has the majority of she owns all the relationships in the story.
yeah, she does. So I'm just going to get this out of the way now. She calls Corky Carkey the entire movie. And there's a lot of
Carkey.
I need your help, Carkey kind of lines. And that I was just like, it took me out of it enough that was hard. But I mean, like, you want things to work out for the best for them, specifically for me, actually for Corky more so than for Jennifer Tilly. Like, if she got beheaded, I probably wouldn't have cared.
Yeah. Well,
So-
she has.
That's pretty harsh.
That's strong.
That's pretty hardcore.
Well, Gershon has the criminal background, so I think that she's kind of masterminding based on her experience. But what she doesn't really know is how these people will actually react. So she's relying so
Right.
much on Tilly's, opinion on how to react in combination with how her criminal experience.
And Jennifer Tilly, her character, has been involved with this group for quite some time. I don't remember how long it's been, but it's been a long time. So she,
I think it was 5 years.
Yes, and Gershon is not wrong to trust her in that. She's like, you know these people.
Yeah, because that's why they say like
How's
5 years
this-
is a long time, and they were both in that relationship. You know, she was in
Right.
prison for 5 years, and she was in the
Both
relationship for
different
5
kinds
years.
of prisons.
Right.
Prisons.
And so, and
I wrote that down.
I will say when they start hatching this plan, and it's Gershon planning and Jennifer Tilly providing all the details and the nuance and fleshing it out for her, that's probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, because like they're intense. They're like they're both picturing it and you're seeing it play out, and it plays out exactly as they are planning it until Joe Pantoliano's character does not do what they think he should do, what any sane person would do. He doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And from there, that's when the shit hits the fan for their plan, and everything kind of comes unhinged.
There's
I
this
like
other interesting thing happening where they show a scene at the very beginning of the movie, which is Gershon bound and injured. So you don't know if that's the end scene or the middle scene. You don't know
Right.
when we're gonna hit that.
And you don't know if she's been betrayed.
Yeah, you don't know if it's Tilly's fault that she's in there, like she and Joey Pants got together and decided to do this, or if what
Right.
went wrong in the
Right.
plan.
And even the thought crossed my mind that from when they met in the elevator, the two of them, she and Joey Pants, hatched that plan from the word go.
Right, and I think that's why the love relationship, they don't really want you thinking about it, because they want you thinking in the back of your head, don't trust her, don't do it,
Right.
don't go for it. You just got out of prison, girl, get your life right. You're going to be plumbing and Peyton, it's going to be fine. You don't need $2.2 million.
And it's established fairly
Everyone needs
early on
2.2.
that Jennifer Tilly is a prostitute, so she could be just gaming Gina
Right.
Gershon from the word go, like I said. And spoiler alert, turns out she's not, which is actually a pleasant surprise for the movie, because it's just like, oh, here is this relationship based on 2 weeks,
Yeah.
acquaintance.
Right.
And it feels like it's going to work out, at least, for the time being.
And the suspicion also is there because it's like Tilly is so directed at Gershon from like
She
the
comes
second
on
she
from-
lays on
yeah.
really strong. So it's like if she had an ulterior motive,
Right.
just to use her for some other part in her plan, that would be the really egregious way to do it. But that would be she wasn't subtle at all. It
Well,
wasn't to
No.
bring her in.
And I think,
Right.
they directly say, like, Gershon from the beginning of the movie is out to get laid. She goes to a bar and she's like, I'm just trying to get laid.
Right.
Yep.
So she's down trying to find a
Can I
lady.
say something about that moment, by the way? The person that she tries to pick up is no looker. I was surprised at
I thought the person she was picking up looked like a trans woman.
Yeah, I thought so
I thought it
too.
was a dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, who is this character?
When she's in the bar and she's sitting, she slides into the booth with this other woman. They don't show this other woman very
and
much.
then her girlfriend comes up and she's like, call me, when you get over it.
Right, and so I don't know if there's some sort of like reference to interesting sort of lesbian politics there, but I was just surprised. Gina Gershon is an attractive woman, and this person was not. Sorry to whomever played that role.
That's pretty.
But I just
Do you
wondered if
think
it was a
Gina
mismatch.
Gershon is still attractive in 2016 standards or just 20 years ago standards?
I would like to say she is, especially in the role of Paul Reiser's wife on Red Oaks, which is currently streaming on Amazon Prime.
But she looks
beautiful
different
woman.
now. She looks different now. I'm talking about if you took Gina Gershon from Bound.
Yeah, absolutely. Just give her a different hairstyle.
I thought she was
different
pretty.
makeup.
Yeah, maybe
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
because of the way she's dressed. It was off-putting. I just felt I wanted her to close her mouth
Well,
once.
and yes, that is something. And I will say
But
that
that's hot back then, when
these
you don't open your, close your mouth.
the
Mouth
stereotypes.
breathers are really.
Yeah,
It's huge.
it
It
was
was
the
huge
'90s.
back then.
The stereotypes in this movie were just laid on so thick
Yeah.
in some
Yeah,
instances.
that
Like
could've been a show.
there's so much black leather for all of the lesbians.
Well,
And Gina Gershon is as butch as you can make a woman as pretty as Gina Gershon without, giving her fake scars all over
well, the
her
costume
face.
department was gearing up for Matrix, so they had to get started.
Right.
And had to start showing all that leather.
Well, I
Right.
think you bring
No.
up a good point, and that's actually something I want to talk about, because I do think it is reflective of how much our sort of awareness and politics have changed. I think since then, like the movie at the time was given a GLAAD Media Award for wide release. for the LGBT community, and was also like I read a review and somebody was saying like that's as close as you'll get to a true form butch lesbian in a mainstream film at the time.
Well, sure.
And I think that's important. But yeah, I think today, like, it's easy.
Well, I mean, and the
to
key,
look at that and go, no, she doesn't look like.
Not very complex.
the key phrase there is for its time.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not the first movie to feature gay people.
No, definitely
for
not.
its time, but like in a relationship that works. And I mean, there are still some stereotypes they play on, but part of that is like Pantaleona's character. At one point, like when he realizes that Tilly and Gershon are involved, he calls her a dyke. He says all these terrible things, and it's basically like you conniving women and you're lesbians. That just makes it worse,
right?
Basically, and it's like, and some of that is, I think, a product of the time, and some of that is that he is a product of the mafia mentality,
Which is, decades behind in
right?
thinking
So,
anyway.
so we're already working with a movie that's 20 years old. And he is operating with a mentality that's 30 years before that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think
So
people
there's-
also, like a lot, I'm sure, like if this came out today, I feel like there would be an uproar of the fact that, oh, you've got a lesbian couple. One of them's a crook who's been to prison, and the other one's married to the mob and a prostitute. Like,
But to the converse of that, would they be like, well, gay and lesbian have come so far that that it's good now that they can be depicted in so complex a way that they can be crooks and they can be
Totally my
complex
opinion,
characters.
yes.
Well, sure.
That's
they're
something.
humans, they're flawed. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what you want. Like,
Yeah,
And you could be said
Like
that
you
that's a
should
good
be
thing
willing
about
to
them.
share all parts of that history, not just the glossy parts.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, like I can get behind that, but it is frustrating to see those stereotypes perpetuated in the 90s.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like in the 90s, it was like, well, of course they're conniving. They're women.
Right,
I mean,
right.
like that wasn't necessarily the prevailing attitude of everyone in the 90s, but it was hard.
But
like
now-
we're still working.
But given that it was written by the Wachowski siblings, who had this future in store for them and written and directed this movie, do you think then that there's some other complexity there, or that they were just as subject to the kind of prevailing stereotypes of the time as anyone?
I mean, I don't see it. I don't think as strongly as Gretchen does. I see they're just trying to escape their lives, and both of their lives are controlled by men. I mean, Gershon's been in the system, so now she owes a bunch of favors to everybody. And she's only, once you're in jail with a felony, you can't get a job. So it's all about like, hey, can you pay me cash on the table to paint this place, etc. I'll fix the toilet, whatever. And then Tilly is stuck in her situation. I mean, she can afford that condo by herself. Even prostituting, I don't know how good she is. But, so they're both stuck and they're both trying to escape from men. So it could be that they're lesbians as an escape from men. It could be that, because Tilly has sex with men and women.
Right.
But the men are work.
Yeah.
Right, the men are work.
Yeah,
Well,
I can see that.
I don't have to disagree with that to still have the feeling that there is a lot of violence against women in this movie.
Oh.
And for two people who identify as women, I don't know at what point in their lives they made that realization, because some people don't make that realization until maybe they've always felt like something was wrong, and then only recently they were like, it's because I'm in the wrong body. Okay.
And
So maybe
just,
that was
just to interrupt, I did read prior to recording this that yes, formerly Larry Wachowski, who is now Lana, has said and come out and publicly said that yes, she has felt that way since a very young child.
okay.
And I think the brother.
So there's so much violence
Lily.
against women who, this is made by people who identify as women. And it's just like, is this a product of his time? Is this some weird repressed self-hate coming out? Is this like...
You don't think
this
any
is-
of it is like, look what
Exposure?
lesbians have to deal with?
Exposure.
Well, it could be that too. Or it could be, well, this is what's expected, so this is the movie we're going to make.
There's definitely, I mean, this is a film noir, so like,
Sure.
and that is
it
always
has to be
attractive.
dark.
Yeah.
Right.
It has to be violent.
But for
there
me,
has to be
it's
crime.
hard
Even
to
the main,
swallow.
yeah, it's hard to watch.
But
Women making, it's hard to watch, and it's hard to swallow women making a movie that has so much violence against women. I mean,
Yes.
they are getting punched in the face.
And it would be interesting to know if they would make this movie the same way today
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
as trans women.
Right.
I mean, and that's the unknowable
Yes,
question
that's
until
my
they
opinion.
say. But I think it's it's interesting to watch this thing from that perspective.
You can add a level of remove and say, well, this character would act that way, and that's true. He Caesar is the character's name. He would act that way. I understand, but it's still hard for me to watch knowing a person like a woman.
Right.
I think that
You
they
know.
did that intentionally because did you see in your research, Shawn, that they actually shopped the screenplay around a little bit before they went with the filmmaker the money that they went with, but I think 5 studios told them that if you change it to one person to a man, then we'll do it.
Which would have made it a very typical noir movie.
Yeah, and I think
very
they
close to
wanted-
It Rings Twice kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is really the only twist, the real twist in the movie, the only real deviation is that
Right.
instead of just, a woman seducing a man into a plot, a la,
Right.
Jack Nicholson and Jessica Lange in Postman Rings Twice or something like that, it's 2 women. And a lot of the same things. I mean, there's really no noir movie where the hapless schlub, the man who's brought in, doesn't get hit, doesn't get
Sure.
have
Even-
violence visited upon them.
Chinatown.
Chinatown. It's like it's
Right.
it's a hallmark of the genre.
Right, and
so in this case, it's like, well, if we're going to put a woman in there, and it's still a noir movie, and you can't say it's not, even just based on the opening credits where they show Bound and all the shadows
Right.
and everything. It's like they're underlining the fact it's noir. Yeah, you have to kind of subject them to the violence. I mean, there's some question as to how you depict it and how graphic it is, the depiction of the violence.
For sure.
I agree.
But, maybe that was the
and
error.
all of you people being more informed about film in general than I am know more about this than me. My beef is primarily with the fact that
Yeah, I mean,
this was hard to swallow
Yeah.
for me, and whatever. And I will say, one thing I wrote down was at least they win in the end, I guess. And I wrote
well-
down that with a question mark.
Yeah.
They get away with it, I guess.
I think as a
You
man,
know?
the fact that they are women and they do, they
Yeah.
get beat up badly.
But that
I was
happens in
happy
real
for,
life.
and it
Oh,
does.
it really does.
I was happy for them to go away. I also think some of this might just be sort of you're in that post Tarantino Pulp Fiction
Right.
reservoir where the violence
Right.
was
Oh,
that was a
right.
selling point.
Right.
Yeah, we
Right.
had Reservoir Dogs, we had Pulp
that's how
Fiction,
you got
everybody
people
was
in the
getting
seats. And I think it
7.
worked. Yeah.
So.
Right.
Well, let's get back to, if we can, just the movie side of this a little bit, because I think the scene that you brought up, which actually I like that scene a lot too, where Gina Gershon is sort of walking Tilly through the mechanisms of how they're going to do this. I always love those kind of moments, especially if it happens in the midpoint, it sort of re-energizes you as an audience because it's kind of like she's
I
talking
want
to
to see
us.
this play out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did that satisfy you then how it played out? Because I mean the plot it really becomes plotty, and then there's surprises. Was there anything that you thought went too far and they lost me, I don't believe this, or the motivation, why would they do this? Because you always have these moments in mysteries or thrillers oh, why don't you just run away, or things like that. And we laughed, Gretchen, watching this a little bit about there's that great scene where the cops come.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
that was brilliant. And there's she doesn't want to let them in. She's like, how do I know you're cops? She looks
She's
through the
stalling so that
she's
he can clean up
stalling,
bodies.
Yeah, to help clean up
Yeah.
the bodies. She's, she looks through the peephole, and the cop's like, "See, it's really us." And then the other cop peeks in and smirks at her and just backs away. And it's that was
There's a buddy
100%.
comedy movie
I mean,
with those guys.
Yeah.
you have to think that was completely improvised,
Yeah.
and it was hilarious. And I just was like,
Yeah, I think,
that
and there's a
worked.
lot of jokes about it, about
He goes
how
to use the
ridiculous it
bathroom,
is.
yeah.
He uses the bathroom, there's a bunch of dead bodies in the bathtub. And then later, when Mickey's over, Mickey's all of a sudden, he's like, why'd you rearrange the furniture? And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, you're caught now. And then he's like,
Because
ladies, they're nervous. She
Dino's
just
coming
wanted
over, yeah.
everything to be perfect.
Right.
Let's,
yeah, there's all that.
On that note, though, I do think, boy, that's an interesting apartment complex because you got the girl that's just got out of prison, and then the guy next door is like, oh, yeah. Everybody in here's got a story,
Right.
Joey Pantoliano is saying this to her because, he finds out she's been in prison. It's like, oh, yeah, we're all, guilty of something in this apartment complex. But then, they do hear screaming, I think, and they call the cops. But then later there's 12 gunshots that go off.
No, they call the cops when the gunshots.
Okay, but then there's more after that.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot more after that. Nobody comes
It's
across.
running down the hallway in the stairwell and firing. Yeah.
Right.
Oh my God.
There's that, and so Car Key's apartment is relatively tiny
That's
compared
not
to
her apartment, right? She's just renovating it for the next person.
But
to
she's
move in?
staying there. She's staying there and
Just while
renovating.
she's fixing
Yeah.
it up,
Right,
and then
right,
she's
right, right.
out.
Yeah, I
in
think
the
so,
new.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, but so she's staying there, and it's reasonably small. Meanwhile, Violet's apartment is cavernous. I mean, this place is huge. And
Mixed income sort of property.
yes, very mixed income.
Prostitute
Studios
money.
and one
Yeah.
bedroom.
Right, I mean,
And mob
like,
money.
Judging from the layout, one apartment kind of wraps around the other one fully. I mean, there's so much.
It was weird,
and
yeah.
there's a lot of bad decision making in this movie. Like they are torturing someone, banging his head against the toilet, cutting off his fingers, and they keep talking about the thin walls.
I know. Why would you move
And the
into a
thin-
place with thin walls if you're in the mob?
And
Well,
then,
why would you bring? That was my thing with the guy with Shelley when they torture him.
why would they bring him
That was
there?
Johnny's decision.
Okay.
She was like, "You said you would never do it." That's why she was so upset and
Right.
ran to Corky to begin with because
Kirky.
she had never witnessed it. That was the first time that
Okay.
that had happened with the finger.
Well, maybe in the bathroom was an interior room, so you had
A little
like
soundproofing.
little-
Also, he was
No,
gagged.
they heard everything.
He
They-
was gagged.
Yeah, but
He was gagged, but not at the beginning.
but
the finger
Gershon
bite.
heard it all.
Yeah.
in the
Yeah,
next
because the
room.
bathroom was
she's-
right next to the other bathroom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the bathrooms
I mean,
are.
that was my point. Yeah, okay.
So
I don't know
yeah.
that I would. Can't they just go do that in a warehouse somewhere?
Yeah.
Down by the
There's
river.
plenty of places
Yeah.
to commit
Under an
crimes without
underpass?
getting
Yeah.
caught.
Yeah.
cabin up in Gallenberg, something like that. That's not easy.
and the cops conveniently know exactly which apartment to buzz.
I
Which
thought that was a little.
that's-
Yeah.
You know, I guess if the neighbor across the hall heard shots, he would be like, "It's one of those two apartments."
And
Whatever.
he should have
you know what I
known by now.
Right, yeah, they should have known. And I would say that, like, when things are unraveling, Joe Pantoliano does a really good crazy. Like, he's way over the top, but it totally works for what's going on.
Yeah.
And he's just, like, he's frantic, and it's really kind of like, he really is sort of, like, chewing it all up and enjoying himself, but, like, I enjoyed it right along with him. Where a lot of the time, I wouldn't necessarily, I'd be like, "Ugh."
I read
You
something
know-
about that too. The Wachowskis told him to watch some Humphrey Bogart movie.
Treasure of Sierra Madre.
Yeah, and
Oh, really?
and get his like sense of "Ugh," from that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's a great performance. I mean, I think it's a legitimately
I would
great
also say,
performance.
yeah, and in the scene where he kills Gino and his son and their bodyguard or whoever
Yeah.
that third person is, there are a lot of unlikely kill shots. I have a background in anatomy. I know where your heart is located, and for the record, it is not proximal to your right shoulder.
It's not.
No, definitely
That's
not.
news. That's
It's
news.
like down by your belly button, right?
Something like that.
So
and
your
so,
your Elliot crest, I think, is where it is. Mostly, right here.
yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
not right?
Yeah. So, I mean, granted, you could die from that wound. You could bleed out from that, sure, 100%.
But not instantaneously.
You would not be dropped and dead
Right.
from that shot.
Right.
And yeah, there was a lot of like getting shot in the arm, killing a person instantly, and I was just like, that's unrealistic.
Well, what about how it resolved? We talked that the girls do win, essentially.
It felt very like Thelma and Louise to me, but with a happy ending.
Yes, they kill the bad guy.
Yeah.
Very cinematically so in a pool of white paint.
That was excellent.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
loved how they shot that. And then they take off in a bright red pickup truck.
Yeah.
A new, right? Because
Yeah.
her old pickup's a beater. It's like a 67 or something like that. And she's really
Beca-
proud of having
because she's
tuned up
a
and
lesbian, so she drives an
Right.
old car that she can fix herself. That was stated in the
And
movie.
seemingly all the loose ends are tied up because you got all the other witnesses are basically dead except for Mickey.
Mickey took care of everything.
Mickey took care of things,
Mm-hmm.
and Violet gives him a nice, like, oddly
Kiss.
intimate parting kiss. That's a little,
It's a little gross.
yeah, a little gross. He's a little, I mean,
Mickey's on the older side.
Mickey's, yeah, it's like this, you know,
I think that's part of her work, her
a bunny
sexual
rabbit.
work is
Yeah.
sex. Sex
a bunny
is work.
rabbit kissing a crocodile.
I like
you
how
know,
he played
you
it
know.
though because it wasn't like
He
he was
was
like,
surprised.
oh yeah, but it was
He was just like, he was like,
I was like, that's an odd
you
thing
know,
to
Yeah.
do.
I just made a facial expression that no one is going to hear.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah.
They'll
Just imagine
experience They'll experience it.
So if there was a sequel to Bound, what do you think
Oh, a
Corky and
sequel.
Violet would be up to?
Maybe Thelma and Louise was a sequel.
Do you think they would still be a couple 10 years later? 20 years later?
Bookstore in Portland.
Best in show.
Something like that.
Talk show. I don't know.
You know, at the end, Karki has that line where she says something to the effect of, you know what the difference is between me and you, Violet? And Violet's like, what? And she goes, nothing. And that's like, because before she felt like there was this big difference, and then
wait till they try to start spending that $2.2 million.
Yeah,
so as
that
close
right
as they
there.
thought that they were together when they were in it, fighting the same war, $2.2 million is going to change everybody. And once Corky starts spending all the money on this and that, and
on trucks.
and
black
Tilly's
leather.
spending it all on 90s, and things are going to not go so
Things are
well.
gonna unravel.
But at least she'll be able to build her a nice giant closet.
There you go. For all those 90s.
Yeah.
I guess
Also, she can tie up some people to fit in that giant closet.
There you go. Yeah, tie them up and lay them down with all our shoes.
Hence the bound too.
Yes.
those guys are soulmates. They're together, absolutely.
We were working out, what was it, some sequel titles.
They can do some ropes courses.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Bound, and Determined, that kind of, the Bound trilogy.
That's right.
Isn't there like a Bound? Oh, maybe I'm thinking Air Bud. Is there like a
Homeward Bound?
Homeward Bound, there you go. That's the prequel.
I told you I'm not up on my movie game.
That must be Airbud. That's the quote of the century right there.
Well, I Googled Bound 2, and what popped up was there's a Kanye West song, and that's the one that's like the famous video of him on a motorcycle just making out with topless
with Kim Kardashian.
Kim Kardashian, which I have not watched. But
Oh, I've seen that.
yeah. I don't think it has anything to do with the movie Bound, I'm guessing. I haven't heard the song, but
They probably
anybody
never
knows.
saw the
There's probably
Wachowski.
more of a connection with Airbud too, probably. Probably that.
Well, here's a bit of trivia that I read that I want to see if you guys notice this whatsoever. Apparently, Jennifer Tilly A was originally auditioning for the role of Karki, which would have changed everything.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Karki.
And they were hoping to get Linda Hamilton to
Yeah,
be
I read that.
Gershon's part. And then that all switched. But Tilly,
Let's back this train up a teeny
yes, Linda Hamilton of Terminator.
bit. Never seen it.
Okay. Well, that's a different episode.
Of Beauty and the Beast, the TV series.
Never seen it.
I would have loved Linda Hamilton instead of Gershon because I thought
But she was supposed
she
to
can play plainer better, and Gershon's lips were too big to be plain.
I'd like to once
Linda
again
Hamilton
say
was
Gina
supposed to be
Gershon
Violet.
is wonderful.
She's a lovely
I
woman
think.
and a
I
fine
mean,
actress.
okay. Let me just tell you, if I missed any part of that movie, it's because I was thinking, should I get lip injections? That looks so hot. Like
I was looking at
I
it
was like,
too.
I mean, you can't see this, but I was like playing with my lips the whole time, trying to like spread them out and see if I could get my lips to look like that. Like the whole movie, I was doing
looking
that.
at her thinking,
You gotta be
bet
born
she
with it.
drools.
But I was like, could I still keep my
She
mouth
doesn't.
closed?
I know for a fact she does not.
No, it's
I'm
more
sure
important
she's
for me
a
to
dear
have a
person
closed
and I
mouth.
think she's pretty.
Okay, back to the thing that I wanted to ask about actually was I read that Tilly actually,
We're supposed to be Karki.
no,
No, okay.
Yeah.
in the scenes where she's speaking to men, she used a slightly higher pitch to her voice to sound girlier than she did when speaking to Gershon. Did you notice that?
No.
I didn't
Neither
notice
did
that, like a pitch necessarily, but a tone. So, like, how I'm talking now versus how I talk when I'm hyper, I would say. Like, this is how I'm talking to the other lesbian in this movie. But this is how I'm talking. Come on, Joy Pants! Come on!
Yeah. I can see that, and I think it also, like, I've listened to a lot of stuff and read a lot of stuff about, vocal fry and stuff like that, and like when a woman deepens her voice, it's supposed to signify some level of satisfaction and things like that. And then when you sound girlier and you're upspeak, you're appealing to the man's,
Lizard brain.
Yeah.
lizard brain. Yeah.
Yeah. You have your home voice and your work voice. And I think it goes back to everything that she did in that condo was work. The relationship with
Right.
Joey Pants was work. The relationship with everybody in the mob was work. All the pimping, prostituting was work.
Sure.
But the relationship she had with Gina Gershon was
I will say
real.
also
Leisure.
Leisure.
It's in
recreational.
Leisure.
one thing I wrote
Recreation.
down though was that she baby talked her pants off to Joey Pants.
Yeah.
And when he was consoling her, he baby talked her right back. And I just thought, oh, well, that's how their relationship works.
It was all really
You
hot.
know,
What?
Did you say it was all really hot?
It was all really hot. No, I did, and just having reacquainted myself just for the first little bit of the movie, I'm like Jennifer Tilly's whole thing, that was working for me. I thought it was pretty
See,
good.
that's what I was saying to Gretchen. Is like she wears a nightie the whole time because she's always working.
Yeah.
That's her work. That's her uniform.
Right. I buy that totally.
it's like car keys, wife beater, and gigantic, wide belted Carhartts with
Exactly.
grease stains all over everything, even though she's not working with grease most of the time.
Painting.
She may have been taking an engine apart in the room if we just didn't see it.
Yeah, she was
Those
rebuilding
are
her
her work
67 Chevy.
clothes. I mean, my work clothes. I mow the lawn in grass stained, paint stained clothes.
Listen, guys,
They're
my
my
work
paint
clothes
clothes.
when I was working had blood on them all the time. I'm not here to criticize. I'm just saying, blood and other more disgusting things. So
Absolutely.
Good times.
That's the end. No. Well, transition. I was going to transition to sex, but ugh. No, actually, there is something interesting to this movie that I found out. The bartender in that scene actually was noted feminist writer and sex educator Susie Bright, apparently, who I think the Wachowskis were fans of as an author and writer, and sent the script to, and when basically asking her to appear as an extra. And apparently she liked it so much, but was disappointed by the fact that the sex scenes were written just to kind of say they didn't have sex. And so she asked to be a sex consultant on the film, and I guess helped choreograph the trysts.
Oh, really?
well,
Interesting.
good for them and good for her.
Did it feel in any... Because I think my sort of memory of this film actually... just to expand on Peggy's take of it was, it's not only the lesbian movie, it's the lesbian movie where they get it on,
Yeah,
And
I had totally whitewashed that out of my head. I just
Yeah.
remember it was very, there was lesbian elements.
You
But I
are
didn't-
lying. Stop.
I did not remember that it was in some
it was
ways,
racy.
That it was a bit racy, we'll say. So as I was watching it, and I remember that I had suggested it, I felt a little bad that it was like, okay, the one movie that we're gonna have,
Yeah.
the women look at and review and talk about is like a really sort of graphically lesbian one. So
Yeah,
that's
the
on me.
the
That's on
next
me.
never heard of it is Deep Throat.
Well,
I will
that's,
No,
say-
we'll do Brokeback Mountain.
yeah, it would have to
too.
be something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, but everyone's already heard of it
I
and seen
know.
it.
You'll have to find something.
Even Gretchen,
more.
we saw in the theater.
Yes.
One of the
We
17.
did?
We did,
Okay.
yes. But
I mean, I know
I
I've
do
seen
want to
it.
It's in the
say,
50s. It's in the 50s.
but what I want to say was, have we just become a little more desensitized? Because watching those, I didn't have the feeling that there was really anything particularly unique or special about the sex scenes
No, I didn't
in
know.
the film.
I felt like for its time, I was like, this is some graphic stuff. Like this is titillating for sure. Let's yes, but
With two noted actresses,
but-
I think yes.
Yes.
yes,
you get
there's
that.
that. I was
part.
like, wow, that's them. Okay, but I think part of the problem you run into now is like with the ubiquity of porn and just like videos everywhere online. This was
Brian's computer.
1996.
Yeah.
It was different.
Right.
So
Yeah.
back then, they needed that sex consultant because there was not RedTube,
Sure.
and they
What's
wanted.
RedTube? I've never heard of that.
Just look it up. Go on
Once
your
again,
computer
check
and
Brian's
look at
bookmarks.
it. So
It's under Brian's boring bookmarks.
Nothing to see here, folder.
Delete items.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, like I felt like this. Yeah, this like I mean, today we're desensitized to it, and society in general like is just like whatever but there are all these ill-conceived ideas of what lesbian sex is.
Sure. And I think that's what the Susie Bright woman was actually
Yeah.
really kind of wanting to.
And if you tell two actresses like
Mm-hmm.
have lesbian sex, they're like
There's a lot of
They're either gonna
holding hands and stuff. I think is probably what's going to be the extent of it.
yeah, either that or they're gonna like pretend they're gonna be like, well, what do they do in porn? You know what I mean? Like,
Slaps.
so
Yeah.
a lot of high-fiving,
Yeah.
fist bumps.
Sure, a lot of
Yeah.
Brian just
That's
failed
why-
his interview to be a sex consultant on anything. But I feel bad actually, even just as a movie nerd. Apparently, one of them was done in a single take in a very fluid shot, where they actually, instead of having a closed set, which
I
is
did notice that.
Usually, what I missed it. I got to watch it again.
Is
I
that
guess.
the big one where they're
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, they did a single camera movement and had people, crew members actually moving the background, the walls to kind of accommodate that.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I noticed that was
Yeah.
one single
Okay,
shot.
there you go. See, this
I
is
did
what
too.
happens.
And-
Okay, fine. Everybody,
Because just to
Jesus,
throw
pile
back
on.
to a previous
But only because
podcast,
you're
I
saying
think
it.
the same thing happened in Comfort for Strangers. It was afterwards, and then it called back when I was watching that, when they start with her already naked, and then they zoom all the way around to him, and it's the same scene where they're being watched when they fall asleep.
I will say on this topic, when we started watching this movie, I'm sitting down and I was like, why the hell did Brian recommend this movie
Yes,
to us?
you said that out
And
loud.
I said it out loud because, like, you know, again, I came into this movie with no clue whatsoever
Yeah.
at all what it was or what it was about. And I'm sitting there, I was like, and I didn't know who the Wachowskis were.
Right.
So I didn't know any of this stuff. And I was like, did he pick a movie just to, like, see us blush?
Right.
And I didn't,
Right.
I didn't know it was going to be.
And I felt that same regret when I watched it just now. I'm like, I just pick a movie to watch them blush, but it wasn't my intention.
I totally just, but I didn't, you know, like, so the sex is actually reasonably contained. Like, there are 2 sex
Yeah, and
scenes,
then it's kind of
and then
over
it
for the rest of
moves
the
into
movie.
the real story of the movie.
Yeah.
So I was just
There's
like,
not like, oh, I mean, it's not anything offensive. I mean,
No, not at
there's
all.
no props
Not at all.
or, you know, anything.
Right.
when the
Listen,
first,
it's
the
not-
first
No
sex scene
vegetables.
comes
There's
in,
no
Whoa.
vegetables, and nobody's
No.
wearing anything additional.
Whoa,
Right.
that's getting, yeah, now you made me blush. Okay.
but
Pay that.
so no, but I mean, like, the sex comes in really early on. And I was like, oh my god, is this going to be this way through the
Yeah,
whole movie?
sometimes,
and it's
yeah.
not, you know. And so
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, so they're doing this to establish this relationship. But like, seriously, right, really early on, I was like, what?
So you took it, so you weren't mad at me by the end of it?
No,
Okay.
except for the whole. I was just like, good 90s.
Yeah, there's some bad grunge in there.
There's some
and
bad
some
grunge. There's some
interesting.
ridiculously wide-shouldered suits on the men.
Yeah.
Those would
There's
still be there.
clothes
now,
have
though.
changed, the
Mafia,
haircuts,
mafia
yeah.
suits. They don't. They still know
they're
better.
They
If
can
the
be
mafia hears
tacky.
this, they're going to be coming after you. So
Okay.
let's not insult the mafia. They're
Friend me
great.
on Facebook.
Kennesaw, Georgia.
Friend me on Facebook.
Yeah. So, but I mean, there was a lot. I wrote down a lot of gripes about the 90s-ness of the movie, but that's just because
You could do a podcast called "I Hate the '90s."
I could, but also, you know, like it's partly self, you know, recrimination, I guess. I don't know what the word for it is.
Like,
Because
why
you're
was I wearing that?
Yeah, I look back and I was like, man, I thought all that stuff was cool in the 90s.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking at it being just cringing.
Well, it was
just like,
weird that
"Ooh."
even the dudes were wearing chokers. I thought that was weird. I thought that was
But,
wrong
like-
for the time.
Like the wine-colored lipstick.
Oh, the wine color lipstick kills
Yes.
me.
You know. And
Even her tattoos were terrible, and like they,
Dreadful.
you know,
Yes,
just
and then-
beyond the fact that they didn't
and
look real, but even
Violet has a line where she's got this teeny tiny tattoo that's on her boob that she's
Oh,
showing to
that's-
Karki.
yeah, yeah.
And she's like, it took all day.
Yeah.
I'm like, for real, you had a terrible tattoo.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I was like,
I must rest.
yeah, I was just
One
like,
line.
that took all day.
When she
Well-
said that, it made me think of when Phoebe in Friends goes to get a tattoo and she gets a little of the blue dot and she's like, no, not you know, this is so painful. And she's like, it's the Earth.
That's
You know?
she had to wait 45 minutes in between each dot, so
Yeah.
it did take a while.
Yeah, I was really impressed with that tattoo artist, I guess.
Well, I think, you know, on the topic of 90s, this movie feels like it's a great companion piece to something like The Usual Suspects. I mean, you could have
Yeah.
a nice little double feature of
Oh, yeah,
a
definitely.
plot-heavy little noir twist. Any last thoughts on Bound?
I mean, Usual
the
Suspects is
Wachowskis.
just so much better.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It would be fun to watch both of them and kind of see. I do think
So,
Usual Suspect
and
holds up quite
I would
well.
like
but,
to say that's in my 17.
Yes, it is.
That's a
Here
movie
we
I saw
go.
before
We're
I
not-
even
We're
knew
gonna
Shawn.
name them all by the end of this podcast.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts? Do you feel like you need to go fill in some holes now with the Wachowskis?
I mean, it would
you
be
want to go watch
interesting
Speed
to.
Racer or
I don't
Jupiter
think I've
Ascending?
watched the Matrix trilogy since everybody's
Since they came out.
changed to the siblings.
Oh, well, sure.
I wonder what's going on in those movies.
We could watch it again and see if there's any insights.
I'm sure there are, but I do feel like this is the obvious one to
Yeah,
look
absolutely.
at.
And you'll be
Sure.
happy to know that they kept Joey for the Matrix, but they didn't keep Jennifer Tilly in the Matrix.
Excellent. You know, I don't
So they
remember
liked working with him.
much of the Matrix,
And let's
except
not
for that I
forget,
didn't like it. So.
Jennifer Tilly played a great character on Monsters Incorporated.
She's excellent
Googly
in
Bear.
that movie.
Yes.
I know,
Celia.
I love her.
Yeah, the voice is good for animation.
Sure.
I think
Sometimes
the
it's just hard to
I think
do.
the voice is good for movies.
For you.
Real Jennifer Tilly fan over here.
If I
I'm
could,
getting the skunk guy from my way.
I could debark her and be okay with it.
Okay, well, once again, thank you guys for joining us. I think we'll end on that
Go
note.
shopping.
What, to debark somebody? It's when you
No,
sneak
like
out.
I need to go shopping to like
Get the
Jennifer
Tilly.
Tilly eyes myself.
Get yourself some more 90s.
Like get some burgundy lipstick and some 90s.
Get like a nice
Let's hear you
little-
say your best car key.
What did I say earlier when I was trying to do her voice?
I don't know.
Joe, I want to have this baby already. I don't know.
You've got some work to do. Yeah. That's,
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go to a voice coach
Yeah,
too.
voice coach. My
It's got to be more wispy, like whisper.
Okay, the voice coach is recommended.
If you could get
Please,
asthma
Car
first,
Key,
and then that would help.
please.
Yeah.
Please.
Deep and breathy.
Please, car key, please. Just gonna
You
keep
and your
saying
car
that.
keys can go watch this movie actually on Tubi.tv. It's free to watch. There are commercials. They are very
Lots
annoying
of
commercials. If you're familiar with Crackle, it's a similar service. But it looked good. It was an HD stream, and it's there for your viewing entertainment. Craig and I will be back next week with a mini episode, and then after that, another full episode, which will divulge what we're going to watch at that time. Brian, thanks for filling in.
You bet.
Peggy, thanks for being here.
Anytime.
Gretchen, thanks for being married to me and being here. And thanks for suggesting Bound.
You bet.
I don't bet. Bye.